All right, I believe we're live. We'll just let things settle in. People start getting notifications. We're a few seconds late. Sorry about that. I was still playing around with StreamYard. It's a fun program. I've been messing around with it a lot lately. Just playing around to see what I can do. Like with the tank being up here, I set up my phone as a camera, and it's just over there checking out the 75. I'll drop it from the stream at some point, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of have it there.
Yeah, that's looking pretty good.
So the left side's real bright, and the right side's covered in duckweed. So, or not duckweed, I guess frog. Well, duckweed and frog bit, but mostly duckweed.
The one thing that's impossible to get rid of.
Yeah, once you let it in, it's in to stay.
Yeah, I have duckweed confined to one tank right now, and I'm trying to eradicate it before it spreads.
It's nearly impossible. I've cleaned it out pretty good one time, and of course it came back. Now, I did not add it to the tank. It just showed up. It came in on something. I don't know if it was just like some snail poop or what. Actually, I think the only thing I brought in the tank was a snail, so it probably was snail poop.
Yeah, every time I trade plants with anyone, I make sure they get rinsed many, many, many times.
Yeah. I rinse them a little bit and then toss them in. Live dangerously with my plants.
Yeah, sometimes I won't rinse. They just go in.
Because I'm okay with snails. Like, I was excited when I got the ram's horn. Hey, Red Laser. Red Laser is in the chat. Oh, Select Pet. YouTube notifications are a little late. I was wondering. We were sitting here and I was like, this doesn't normally happen like that. New local Austin's with us. Duckweed is where it's at. I guess I could click on this so everybody can see it. Duckweed is where it's at. I have 4 goldfish getting large on the supply. Yeah, now, those of you who keep goldfish, I hear that. The duckweed is great. Now, I've heard people feeding it to mollies as well. I have never noticed my mollies eating on it. I don't know if there's something I need to do. I know Tanner's talked about drying it out.
Yeah, the only thing I haven't, besides goldfish, I don't know anything that will eat it, but like I've talked about on previous streams, I'll take it out of the tank, put it in a freezer, Ziploc bag, and freeze it, and then add it with some other stuff.
Oh, that's what it was.
Make like a veggie jello type thing, and snails, and I think a lot of people who keep focus on their aquatic snails call it snello.
Yeah,
but it seems, I don't do it often, but it seems to work pretty good.
All right. Well, let's see here. I know we worked on some show notes. The problem with me doing this with my phone is that my notes are over there on my phone. So, Tanner, you are in charge of the notes. I think we'll be good. We didn't have a lot of notes. It was just a lot of conversation, like things we wanted to try and cover. So we'll go ahead and get started now. We have a few people in the chat. We appreciate everybody coming out to Scruffy City Aquatics live stream. I think this is number 3. So yeah, it's been fun doing this. And like I said, those of you in the replay, you're catching this part again. But I've been playing around with the settings and just kind of learning StreamYard. I think it's a really fun program. Select Pet says, I had convicts once that ate duckweed. Later groups wouldn't, though. Yeah. Yeah, Tanner is in charge. Tanner's in charge.
Yeah, I would kind of caution with that.
Tanner's going to keep up with the time? Yeah, I better set a reminder. Hold on.
I've got the notes pulled up.
You got the notes pulled up.
But yeah, if we're going to go ahead and start. So you all, if you've seen previous streams, you've seen Mitch and I on the stream, but we're lucky enough on this stream to have a guest, a very special guest, and it is Derek Wheaton. He is a conservation biologist, wildlife photographer, live food extraordinaire. and just I got to meet him for the first time this past weekend. A really great guy, but he works at Conservation Fisheries Inc. Did I get that one right?
Correct. Yep.
Correct. Okay, but so
I've got a question right off the bat. Do you call it Inc. or do you call it Incorporated?
We just say CFI or Conservation Fisheries usually.
All right. I've always wondered, places that are incorporated, do they call it Inc.? I don't know.
Yeah, I around the office you don't hear Inc. or Incorporated really. We just call it CFI pretty much.
All right, we can do that too.
awesome.
That's easier.
So Derek works at CFI, and he was gracious enough to give us a little tour of their facilities in kind of preparation for this live stream. And I'll just say that it was a fantastic time. I really enjoyed it. I learned a whole lot. But why don't we get into it? And Derek, if you'll just kind of give us an overview of CFI, what you all do, your kind of goals, just sort of stuff like that.
Yeah, so CFI, we're based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. We are basically a nonprofit fish propagation facility. We do all native species. I think we've done things from basically New York to Florida, and as far west as Arkansas, and we're always willing to expand our range even further than that. But we mostly raise endangered and threatened species, mostly to reintroduce into the wild for reintroduction programs and conservation programs. We also raise things under contract for university projects for studies and for mussel propagation. Freshwater mussel is also a very important part of the ecosystem, and they require fish to complete their life cycle because they have a parasitic larvae. So a lot of them are very host specific, and a lot of the fish are difficult to come by in large numbers. So sometimes they contract us to produce those too.
That's cool.
And we also do whenever we do a release, we also are involved in the monitoring of the fish after we release them. So we release fish that are tagged and then go back and do snorkel surveys, mostly to see if we can find those fish afterwards.
That's got to be a fun trip. Go back and see how things are going.
Yeah. Especially when we actually find them and we find them thriving, and sometimes it takes years and years, but those success stories make it all worth it.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I thought was really cool when I was looking into CFI was the story of how it was started. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So our founders, Pat Rakes and J.R. Shute, they were basically grad students that worked at their, studying at UT. And JR owned a fish store back in the day, back in the 90s, and I don't know the details about how exactly it came to be, but they were in the fisheries program and had a fish store, and there were some invasive or endangered species that there was some interest in trying to propagate, and so they started kind of working out of the back room of their hatchery just with a couple of spare tanks that they had, and they had some success. Tropical fish husbandry is kind of where we got our start as far as adapting that to native species, and so the rest is kind of just built from there.
That's cool. Hey, Kane's in the chat, so we want to make sure we say hi to Kane.
What's going on, Kane? How you doing?
He needs attention.
So
go ahead.
So the aspect of the mussel reproductive cycle with the parasitic larvae, as you were saying, that was something that this last weekend blew me away. I'd never heard of that or would have even thought about that. But I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't pay much mind to the mussels, and this part of the country also, I mean, the southeastern U.S. is a hotspot for diversity for fish also, but it is the global hotspot for mussel diversity. I mean, I think Europe might have a dozen species of freshwater mussels, and I've seen a dozen species in a square meter of our local, stream bed. and we have a couple of hundred in the eastern U.S. And I think between a third and a half are federally listed endangered species. They've had some troubles adapting to human use of the landscape and things. So they're awesome, but they filter feed and they help clean the water too. So they're a very, very crucial part of the food chain and everything.
John Select Pit says success stories are always great. I keep up with the reintroduction of Goodeids in Mexico and love hearing the success stories for fish. And I've noticed that about John. I've seen him share some stuff about those fish, and actually, I think he keeps a few fish that are on some list or something like that. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know he keeps some rare fish. So I know that is a passion of his. I've heard him talk about that before. So let's talk a little bit about how we met. So you came to. Have you been to one meeting? Is that right? One of the ETA?
I've been to two now. I've been to the last two meetings.
The last two. Okay, I wasn't at the last one. That's why I missed you. Yeah. So you came to the last two meetings, and you're a friend of Cassandra's. So you helped out with her live food cultures, and I know that on the website they've got that you're a live food champion. And I thought that, or a live culture champion. I thought that was cool. So you helped out the club with some of those cultures, and just as we're looking around in the area and getting to know people in the hobby, and it's really cool to find people just so willing to help out their fellow aquarists. And I think that's what's great about having a club. So that's how we met. That's where the connection came from, and we're excited to have you part of the club. I know work keeps you away a lot on Saturdays, so you won't always be able to make it, but it was fun getting to talk with you a couple months ago.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad that there's a local club to be involved in. It's great to see a community being built up.
Yeah, and the live foods, I mean, that changed my hobby a great deal. That was a great, it was a great addition, because my Corys started spawning about a week after starting to feed live foods. Now, of course, I ended up with some flies in the banana worms, and I need to start all over, and I've learned some lessons, but I think that's what it's about, right?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of became the default live food person at work, just sort of on accident. And I don't feel like I was a particularly talented food culturist before, so I'm definitely benefiting from the fact that a lot of things were already set up, and then I could learn from the way that they were set up and everything. But it's definitely always a learning experience, and cultures always crash for one reason or another. Sometimes you have no idea why, but yeah.
Well, it was funny because it's been a little over a week. One of my daughters was like, "Wow, that's really starting to smell." And I was like, "Well, it's always smelled like yeast. Does it smell worse than it did?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, it's stinking." And then that last week, I opened it up and I was like, "Oh, that's bad." And I got you're going to have to keep that out of the house. That can't stay in the house.
Yeah.
So,
a fouled microworm culture, once it starts getting a little bit of the black scum on top, it is one of the worst smells.
Yeah, I forgot about one in my closet.
No.
It was bad. It was like
it crashed and everything.
The container was like starting to swell. So like I picked it up and carried it out in the trash, and I was like, this cannot. But if it explodes, I'm going to be covered in dead microworms.
Yeah. No. What was funny was the night before I threw it out, I fed in the little Cory, the 10-gallon tank that I was raising up the Cory fry, and there was this one worm that was like 8 times too big. And so I took a picture of it and sent it to Cassandra. I was like, "What is this? What have I done?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's fly larva.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to start stinking." I was like, "Oh, it already stinks." So let's catch up in the chat real quick. So Select Pet, so 3G, thanks for coming by. Glad to have you. Select Pet says, "I bought 4 or 5 species of Goodeids to share at the last meeting too. Always happy to promote education and care of species in need." Kane says, It's definitely awesome. All the connections that are being made by the club, which was our main reason of making it, to bring the community together. Absolutely. Being able to have those opportunities to learn from people like John and from Derek and Tanner, with plants and fish and live food cultures and all this, it's been great. I highly recommend anyone who's not involved in a local club, get involved in a local club.
Definitely.
Flies can be live food, Mitch. You just had two types of live food. No, that's true. I actually did feed the larva to the main tank. The Cory fry were not big enough to touch it at all. So we got Liquid Zoo. Matt's in the house. Sup? What's up with you? And John says, so far I'm liking vinegar eels and grindle worms better than any of those oatmeal worms. My grindle worms still kind of taking off. I've made some mistakes.
That's one thing I've not kept is the grindle worms yet, but you call them the oatmeal worms. I've always read that oatmeal smells worse for micro worms. I use the instant
Potatoes.
mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
As long as you get ones without, any sodium or as little sodium as you can. I've always read the oatmeal gets a little funkier. So
does the oatmeal get funky because of the yeast though? Maybe. I don't know. I've only done a couple of times.
Well, I always sprinkle a little bit of yeast in, to kind of jumpstart it, I guess. But
yeah.
I also, like I was telling you all this weekend, I keep them in a fridge,
right.
Wine cooler.
Wine cooler. So it's not as cold as a refrigerator.
No, let's see. It's at 60.
I just wanted to make sure people knew. We're not saying put it in the refrigerator. I don't know that that's okay.
Yeah, I've never done that. I'm
wine
sure
cooler.
Preserve them.
Yeah. Skull Aquatics is here. Says hi, guys.
That might work well to have just a long-lasting like starter culture or something.
Yeah.
Keep it in the fridge.
Oh, it's jumping on me. Zen Ginger's here. Howdy, y'all. Hello, Zen Ginger. Select Pet says he has had some problems with oatmeal, mashed potatoes, and cereal. Crypt Keeper Aquatics is in the house. What's up? All
I think any of them has potential to smell horrendous if something goes wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Crypt Keeper. Everyone, go hit that like button. I've not gotten used to that kind of stuff yet. So let's do just a little bit of that, and then we'll move on to some more talking about Derek. Like, subscribe if you like what you hear. If it's something you're interested in, check out the videos for sure. Notification bell's there. You probably know what it's for. It'll let you know what's going on. And another thing that I wanted to bring up was I noticed this week, I think it was this week, that Susan for SLC Aquatics has a poll going on over on her channel where she's asked, what's your favorite fish keeping channel? I think that's what she said. I'm not going to tell you to vote for me. There's a couple of other channels on there, and they're great channels that I'm subscribed to and I watch, and I voted for one of them, not for me. It was hard though. I really wanted to vote for me. But anyway, go check that out. It's for the Fish Fam newsletter, and the winning channel gets featured in the newsletter. So go check that out. Select Pets was on there, and Science Gal Aquatics is on there. Science Gal's going to win it for sure. All right, CFI. We've got more people in here. We're not going to back up and talk about what we've already talked about, but it's a great organization. I've been really impressed. I've been kind of perusing the website and checking out things in, looking forward to the visit, which got cut short for me with some family stuff, but I'll make it back out and get to finish the tour. I got to see the live food cultures. That room was impressive. I was just in awe. I was like, I could feed so many tanks. So that was really cool to see. And you've got a lot of tanks to feed. And I got to go into the warehouse and start to see the facility. And it's really cool. Great place to work, I'm sure. What's your day like? Like, I mean, I'm sure every day's probably different, but what's like your most normal day like?
Most normal day, I go in first thing and start harvesting brine shrimp. We have a couple of different brine shrimp harvests. So we do one 24-hour, and then we have a 48-hour brine shrimp. The 24-hour get fed to the youngest, smallest fish larvae. probably can cut that off here pretty soon because we don't have things actively spawning so much. Rotifers and brine shrimp are the first things to go out because we got to get the smallest babies fed as often as possible and as early as possible. And Tanner got to see it, but we have a reservoir system. So we have they're basically cat litter buckets that we have a spigot and a solenoid so that they feed a little bit of food into the baby fish reservoirs. A couple of times every 3 minutes, actually, it drops a little bit of food in there. So I can fill those up first thing in the morning, and they get a constant source of fresh brine shrimp throughout the day. They have to be filled up a couple of times a day, but rather than me having to constantly walk back and forth to each individual tank and do all that. And then, so after the rotifers and brine shrimp, then I go back to the green room. The green room is our food culture room. That's what we call it.
Okay.
And I start working on harvesting Daphnia, Stereodaphnia, some of the smaller things. We have grindleworms in there. And we grow microworms. I've started, thanks to Cassandra, working with the vinegar eels a little bit. And basically walking through the hatchery a whole lot and trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything, and just trying to keep all the bellies full.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All day feeding for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that the bucket system with the solenoid you had, when I first saw that, I was like, that's genius. I've never seen something like that before. And it just takes out the hassle of, I've got to feed these fry 5 times today. Well, set a timer. I just thought that was so smart.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those really, really small fry, they can maybe swallow 1 or 2 individual baby brine shrimp at a time, and an hour later they're hungry again. And so rather than trying to keep up with that, it spits a little bit of food in there constantly, and it really provides something for them to snack on. And it probably also helps with natural feeding behavior. They're constantly on the lookout for food and things too, so it works really well for us.
The Zen Ginger says, Scruffy, you're awesome, but don't be sad if Cory beats you. She's pretty great. Yeah, I absolutely expect to lose that one. But like I said, I think I answered you. I'm just glad to have some votes. All right. And Select Pet did share where to go. I don't know that anybody can use it from there, but you can get it in the live chat. So everybody's thank you for checking that out. And what was next on our list, Tanner?
Okay, so let's talk about, you've said that you keep a lot of species, or you've kept species from all around at CFI. What do you currently have in your fish room, and what are your current, projects and goals?
You don't have to name everything.
Yeah, you can abridge it. I know we looked at a lot on Saturday, but give us the main.
How many species are there right now? Do you know that?
Main species.
I think we have 19 species in the hatchery right now total that we're working with. Let's see. Well, I'll start where we started the tour. So the spring pygmy sunfish, they are, an adult fish can fit on your thumbnail pretty much. They only in the wild live in one spring-fed pond in North Alabama. And we maintain a couple of hundred of them on average, just as an ARC population. So basically just to preserve them in case anything would to happen to that natural population of them. They're just a backup, they're insurance basically. And they're one of our favorites just because they're really cute and charismatic and fun to watch. They're also easy to breed. Anyone that has worked with any of the other available pygmy sunfish species that are in the hobby, they pretty much spawn in vegetation. You can remove the adults and the babies just kind of appear. So they're nice that way. So that's also a favorite. We have
there's a whole room of these.
Yeah.
Which was really, really cool.
Was awesome. It was like you walk into a room that's probably the size of like somebody's good sized fish room, and it was all pygmy sunfish.
But they're
the
also
various
small.
ages.
Like every tank in there, pretty much is except for one, is a 10-gallon. But I think there's 60 10-gallons in there. We have a rack system on there, and just lots of little baby fish.
Yeah, too. Those are that room was cooler, wasn't it? Because those are spring-fed fish.
Yeah, so they are pretty much between. I think they might get down to 55 in the winter, but they're between 55 and 65 pretty much all year round. And they can live a little bit warmer, but it shortens their lifespan. They don't seem to reproduce as well, so it's just not optimal for them. So.
Yeah, my daughter was with me while I was there, and there was a little retirement tank, and that was like, she was like, "Get a picture of that. We need a picture of the retirement tank." And I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
it was a little what do they call it? Hexagon, little hexagon tank, or not little. It was pretty good size hexagon tank.
Yeah, that's the retirement community. They're basically an annual fish, so right now is basically their peak spawning season, and most of them live through their first year, at least in captivity, but by their second winter, they're starting to kind of die off, and they seem to be prone to fungus, and their immune system seems to give out more than anything. So once they've gone through one spawning season and produced baby fish for us, they get to go to the retirement tank.
Susan for SLC Aquatics just stopped in. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
We were just talking about your poll a few minutes ago. I'm trying to convince people to go vote for me. Not really. I've told people to go vote for whoever they want. But, I was the one that told them about the poll. So
moving into
how
the
about
main...
this? What?
Oh.
I was
Sorry,
just
go
going
ahead,
to say,
Mitch.
what's your favorite fish that you guys currently have at CFI?
That's such a hard question.
Yeah.
The Tennessee dace are really, really nice fish. They're beautiful, beautiful fish. They have Tennessee in the name. They're kind of a local specialty to East Tennessee, so that's pretty nice. And also we found out that they're pretty easy to produce in captivity. So we have, I think, roughly 3,000 babies that we're growing out, and should be getting to stock later this summer. Just for several restoration sites in the National Forest in Southeast Tennessee.
Yeah, Mitch, I think those were a fish you didn't get to see, but I got to see them, and they are stunning with those red bellies, and kind of the throat is a little red. But I would say that the stickleback were another really cool fish. I hadn't seen those before.
Yeah, the stickleback are just one of my personal pet projects too. They're not officially a CFI fish. I just have them in a tank in there for fun. But I was visiting my girlfriend's family in Ohio last fall and caught a couple of sticklebacks, and I wasn't sure if anyone had ever spawned them in captivity. And the hatchery is really nice for temperate fish because in the winter it gets cold, so I don't have to go through extra effort to simulate winter for them. So we let it get down into the 40s and 50s. And so in the springtime, there we go. There's some Tennessee dace. So a lot of these fish, they require that cold wintertime, simulation period with short photo periods. So we have timers on the lights that mimic the natural daylight cycles of this area. And a lot of them, once it starts warming up in the spring and once the days start getting longer, they just spawn. That's basically all it takes for a lot of them. They know what time it is.
So what is spawning season like at CFI? I'm sure it's just crazy hectic.
It's like the end of the month. You got to get everything done.
Yeah. We do. Let's see. I would say our earliest fish usually spawn sometime in March, and we have things that are still spawning a little bit right now. So the good news is that because of the diversity of fish that we have in the hatchery, it doesn't all happen at once, but usually April into mid-May is really, really crazy because there's just baby fish everywhere. And for me, it's hard to keep everybody fed. The fish are they're in different trays. They're different in different tanks as they grow. We're splitting them up into different areas, and sometimes it's just hard to keep track of where all the fish are at any given day. It changes constantly, but that's a good problem to have because that means we have so many fish that we can't keep track of them. But
Xanadu is here. Hey, Fish Fam friends, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, another thing I was impressed was your all's labeling system. It seemed, I know it can get crazy and hectic, but it seemed like y'all, if those labels were up to date,
they should be. Sometimes they're not always, but we've gotten better at it.
It seems like y'all keep very good track and are on top of things there, which it was just a great facility to see.
Yeah, well, because a lot of these fish are endangered species, we also have to write a lot of reports and things. We have someone, her name's Missy, that's kind of our head report writer and keeps track of all that things. And we have to report a lot of the stuff to the Fish and Wildlife Service and the state agencies. So a lot of times they want to know, how many larvae we produced and what the survival rate was and things like that. So it's also good for us to just learn from, to see, if we did one thing this year, that didn't work, then we can, adjust things. So it's definitely good to just have those statistics to look back on and learn from.
John says, I need a better label system. For my writing the wrong name on the tank isn't working. Yeah. Yeah, my labeling system's not too good either. Now, of course, I've only got the one tank, but in the QT, keeping up with what salt treatment I'm on and things like that. Yeah, I don't do well with that. I just keep it in my phone. I just make sure I post something about it on the group so that everybody knows I can go back and look. It's my own personal journal. Everybody's like, why is Mitch always posting stuff? That's why, so I can keep up with stuff.
Whatever works.
So I've seen you do some snorkeling in the areas, in the reservoirs, in the river, or I guess mostly rivers, but mostly rivers. So what's that? You guys go out? Is that just when you're going and checking on populations that you've already released, or are there other reasons why you do that? I know you've got some outreach stuff that you do too, but what's up with snorkeling?
So I do it in addition to work, just because it's fun and I get to see a lot of really, really cool stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. Is we do it a lot at work for just again, they're mostly endangered species, so netting them or electrofishing is what is typically used in fisheries for surveying. So they basically run an electrical current through the water and stun the fish. That's how state agencies monitor, bass populations and things like that. But there's a low mortality risk. So if you're working with endangered species, you want no mortality risk. So getting in the water with them and just looking at them and not handling them or disturbing them as little as possible is the best way to really survey for them. So we do a lot of that. I'm going to be out tomorrow in Middle Tennessee doing some of that.
Fun. Yeah, I was that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing more of in the area. And when Cassandra told me that you do that, I was like, oh, good. I need to make sure I talk to him because I want to do that. And we talked about having the club come out and do something. But you guys have something. CFI has something coming up soon next month in July. Are you able to talk about that? I know I didn't ask you to be prepared to talk about that.
I think it's July 20. July
24th.
Yeah, but the snorkeling day is going to be the 23rd. Well, that's when we'll be out there actually kind of having an event.
Okay.
But it's at River Johns Island. You can keep an eye on the group for, I know you already posted an announcement for it. We're working on the Facebook event page for it. But we basically, a friend of CFI runs an outfitter, canoe kayaking service on the Little River right outside Knoxville. And basically we kind of have that weekend blocked off for ourselves. People can go camp. We'll be out there snorkeling. We'll probably be seining and showing people fish. We usually set up a little aquarium to let people see the stuff, that we catch. And it's usually a really good time. Hopefully it doesn't rain.
Yeah, it could go either way.
The little river can be a little finicky, but I mean, any river, it's if it rains, it's not going to be very clear for snorkeling and things for a little while. So that's the main concern with that. But it's always a good time.
Hopefully we get good weather. I know we're looking forward to it. We're hoping to make it out, and we're talking with people in the club. Hopefully we can kind of meet up there and have a good time. It sounds like a good time. John's asking, are the Cory fry in the main tank? Yes, they are. They are in the main tank. I've seen at least 3 of them. It's kind of hard in that tank to see, to count 4. But I have seen at least 3 of them at one time. And they're all over the place, especially during feeding. And it's great. It's really awesome. I was just sitting there the other night and I was like, that is a very, very tiny Cory right there next to all those other Corys. And that impresses me. And I have 4 more in the quarantine tank now that are growing up. So hopefully I'll end up with 8. We got Cody Krumer. I think that's how you say it in the chat. And I have no idea what you said, but thanks for coming. What else we got, Tanner? I don't have my notes. We cover it all.
My notes pulled up.
Okay, so let me ask you this while he's looking at the notes.
Yeah.
Derek, on the website, you guys are you've got certain species that you're tacked out for. Is that just like what you're interested in, or is that something that's like a project of yours?
That's kind of just a good way for us to divide up the workload.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have 19 species and, just a couple of people that work in the hatchery all the time. And it's, especially, that mid-April to mid-May when things are spawning, it gets really, really crazy. So we try to divide up who's doing what and who's working with what species and make sure that, not everything is happening all at once for any particular person. And some of it's based on personal interest or things that we've worked with in the past, or, we all kind of, if something is causing us problems, we all kind of collaborate and, throw out ideas for what to do. But we all kind of get ownership of our own projects.
Okay. All right. So Cody Cromer says, does CFI have plans on propagating Lepomus glossus? I'm probably nowhere near how to say that.
The mighty warmouth.
Okay.
The warmouth is kind of a joke in the native fish community because it gets confused for every other sunfish species.
Okay. So this is a fish that everybody thinks they see.
Yes. So,
or is it a fish that everybody sees and they think it's something else?
Oh, both for sure.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So Tanner did get to meet Bruce.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do have a green sunfish, which a lot of people mistake for a warmouth. And the story is the first year I started working there, we had a really, really bad drought in Tennessee. And the Barron's top minnow is one of the species that we work with. And their natural habitat basically dried up entirely. So the person that owns the land that they live on, it's a little spring-fed pond, called us, and we went out and collected as many of the fish as we could. And about 2 weeks after I started working at CFI, I was feeding the fish in a big vat. And I noticed that one of them looked a little bit different. And it turned out to be a tiny little green sunfish baby. And he's been there for 5.5 years now. So he's been at CFI longer than I have, by a couple of weeks. But he's sort of our mascot. He's about 6-7 inches now. He's a nice, big, full-grown green sunfish. He's got his own tank. He's kind of our mascot.
John says, when we go native collecting with the Lexington, Kentucky Fish Club, we collect and identify other species such as crayfish, turtle, frogs, and snakes. Do you all make note of other species in the area also? And I'll get that out of your face.
Yeah, we definitely try to. Crayfish are very hard to identify, but if we see something interesting or see something that is breeding, we'll take note of it. Probably one of the big ones that we run into that's of conservation concern that we always note is we do run into hellbenders every once in a while, the big giant salamanders that we have in East Tennessee and in the Appalachians, and they're always cool to see. They're around. We don't, we're not super surprised when we encounter one. A lot of the places that we work are public land, and the water quality is good, and they're around. But we definitely take note of things like that. One of the cool things is that everyone that works at CFI is pretty much just a general naturalist. So, I mean, we'll be on our way to a field site, and someone will have the window down as we're driving down a country road, and someone will hear a fragment of a bird call and call out what species it is, and we'll look at crayfish, and someone usually has an idea what it is. The freshwater mussels, a lot of them still kind of just look like rocks to me, but we have people that know their mussels better, and it's always fun. Anytime we're out in nature, we're soaking it in and trying to enjoy it as much as we can. And if we run into anything that's important to note, we definitely do.
Kane wants to know if you're hiring. He says he's sick of doing flooring, and he says, I have a healthy envy that would be awesome. Now, what about, is there any way people can volunteer to help, or is there anything that people could volunteer to do?
We do have a volunteer program. It's headed up by our wonderful employee Shannon, who also, if you go to the website and check out our website, she just overhauled the entire website. It's really awesome. Lots of great pictures, and it's well organized and everything. And so she is the person to reach out to through our website with that. We usually do. We'll kind of have volunteers sort of on a rotating basis. So every couple of months, we'll have a volunteer period open up, and we'll be looking for a few people. So we try not to just have people that can come in. We want someone that's going to be there more than just coming in for 2 hours every other week or something. Like it's just it's a lot of training, and there's a lot going on. And even when I have a day off, I'll walk into the hatchery and things have changed so much that I kind of got to orient myself. And so someone that doesn't work there regularly is going to be real confused. So do you have any positions open? What's that?
Do you have any positions open?
We just had a couple of volunteers start recently, so we're set for now, but you can always reach out or give us your information or whatever.
Yeah.
We are not hiring also, but
okay.
Sometime in the future, hopefully we will be, because we're working on a facility expansion.
Right.
We're fundraising for that. We have Tanner saw it. The place is huge until you realize how many fish and aquariums are in there, and we're kind of at capacity. And we have plans drawn up to basically double the size of the facility. And we're currently fundraising for that, and that would allow us to do a lot more work, and that would also create a lot more work for us. We would not be able to handle it with our current staff. So
it's a good cause, though, taking care of these local species. And I mean, it's really cool. I know with my daughter, she's like me. She really loves nature, and she really gets into talking about endangered species and things like that. And so when I was telling her about it, it was something she was very excited to see how people take care. I mean, because you go to a zoo and you read a little bit, but it's kind of different to come in and see a hatchery and to see all that goes into protecting these species.
Yeah, and that's you got to bring her back when you come for your retour of the place, because there was a lot that she didn't get to see too. It's overwhelming in there for sure. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but when I opened the door from the green room to the main hatchery, like I don't know if you heard the angels singing, but it's like.
I mean, it's really cool. I've worked in a large warehouse, and to walk in and to see the large warehouse, like, oh, this feels familiar, and then to start seeing all those tanks, is like, oh,
Yeah.
This looks fun.
Yeah, all
Think
those
of-
rack systems with three sets of tanks. So we have ladders all over the place. I mean, it's
oh yeah.
yeah. You can't even see all the fish in there.
No,
Yeah.
actually that was one of the things I was looking at. I was like, how do you take care of that tank up there?
We have long hoses.
I won't interrupt you again, Tanner. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, that was something that blew me away. You had tanks from literally floor to ceiling, and it's not a short ceiling. It's like 18 feet high at least. And I was walking through and looking up, and I was looking at the bellies of fish and barely seeing them. I mean, you all have definitely maximized that space.
Yeah,
Kane's asking, how much brine shrimp do y'all go through? This is something we talked about.
Yeah.
Well, it depends a lot on the season. Right now let's see. Trying to think. I think we're going through about 6 tablespoons of brine shrimp eggs per day right now.
You had like 4 or 5 vats going, right?
Yeah. So we have an AM harvest and a PM harvest, and then we have a 24-hour hatch, and then so there's five brine shrimp hatcheries going at any given time right now, and they each get 2 tablespoons of brine shrimp eggs, which if you raise brine shrimp, that ends up being a lot of brine shrimp. So we definitely order the 1 pound canisters of brine shrimp eggs, by the box, once or twice a year. So it's a lot of brine shrimp and a lot of salt.
Yeah. Now, one other thing we wanted to make sure we talk about before the live stream's over is how can people help? We did talk about volunteering, and there is a process for reaching out and getting involved if you want to volunteer. But what about those who just want to partner with CFI? You were talking about this expansion, trying to make the building larger, to be able to fit more tanks, to be able to do more things. I know the answer. I've already put it in the chat. It's go to the website. But
Yeah.
What kind of things? How can people help? Let me put it that way.
Our kind of biggest thing is just fundraising. We are a nonprofit. Our fish that we raise are based on contracts that we get from the government mostly. Again, when you see the facility, it's not the nicest building. we do a lot with what we got. But we have extension cords running all over the place, and the electrical system isn't so we kind of just make it work. So basically fundraising for the expansion and renovation of the facility, trying to get things more optimized. Following us on social media, taking an interest in native fish, and I try to do outreach with my photography and just trying to get people interested in what's out there. It's all important. People don't protect what they don't love, and a lot of people look at a stream or a river and just see little minnows, and they all look the same from above the water, and people don't realize what a special place this is. So just trying to get the word out pretty much.
And the website has a ton of places that you can find to click to help to give, and that's really cool. Did you want to pull up the? I know we had talked about your page, the photography page. Was there anything on there in particular you wanted to pull up, or?
Yeah, I guess if you can just pull, if you have the capability of pulling it up and showing up just a couple of the fish pictures or something.
Well, I'm definitely going to try.
Okay. Some of my pictures are also on the website too, of the fish that we work with. But
I've looked at some of the photos you've taken, and they are incredible. I looked through them for a couple hours.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
If you notice, after we became friends on Facebook, you kept getting a bunch of likes for me. It was because I was looking at your photos, and I was like, this is. I mean, it was mind blowing, because you would never think in our area there's this many species, but I mean, East Tennessee and the Southeast is one of the most biodiverse areas out there.
Unfortunately, I think Alabama officially outranks Tennessee in fish diversity. But Tennessee's somewhere near 300 species of native fish, and Alabama's a little bit, below that and or above that, and all the surrounding states have their own unique species that live, only in those states or only in those rivers, and it's just an amazing place to be if you like different fish, and a lot of them are beautiful too. Like, I think you can see the picture of the rainbow shiners right now. Like, a lot of people that, are aquarists know what a rainbow shiner is. And those are native to Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. And they're just in creeks, and people that don't know what they are probably, catch them in a seine and stick a hook through them and catch a bass on them, and they're a prized aquarium fish for us. So.
Yeah, I'm a member on the Aquarium Co-ops forum. And there's a thread over there about the top, I can't remember how it was worded, but it's the top kept fish in the hobby from each state. So like it's a native fish from the state, and not necessarily like it's the most kept fish in Tennessee, but it's the most kept fish from Tennessee in the hobby. And it was the rainbow, and it was, I'd never seen the fish before that image. And I was just so impressed with it.
Yeah, they're
amazing fish. Zen Ginger wants to know, do you have a YouTube channel or just the professional groups?
I do have a YouTube channel. I don't use it all that much. I think my give me a second. I'm gonna double check my username. I use it pretty infrequently. I am only dipping my toes into video editing, so most of what I have is just short little clips and videos that are on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram under the same title, Enchanting Ectotherms. I think I'm just listed as Derek. I think I'm just listed as Derek Wheaton on YouTube. So I have a couple of pictures or videos on there.
Yeah, those rainbow shiners are beautiful. That tank that y'all had them in there, they just looked incredible.
So that picture that you just had of those rainbow shiners, that was taken outside of Birmingham, Alabama, in this little creek. It was no more than knee deep at the deepest. And a friend of mine that's working on his master's is working on the rainbow shiners, and he was down there and gave me a heads up that they were spawning, because they're pretty ephemeral as far as the spawning. Like, they'll only go for a couple of days out of the season, or at least like be in full color. So those aren't even in full color. But I got to the spot that he told me to go, and I parked behind a grocery store and walked past the dumpsters in my wetsuit to get into this little creek that was like, there was kind of a levee built up, and it was like, tall grass, and, it was kind of in the middle of the city, and it was a real weird spot. And, I'm sure, probably next to nobody knows that those incredible fish are there, just right outside Birmingham, Alabama. And, I drove down there like 4.5 hours to snorkel with those guys.
Down next to the dumpster. That's a cool story.
I was also with, I should plug some of my buddies too. I have, I was with a friend of mine, Andrew Zimmerman, who also takes amazing pictures. He met up with me. He's based out of Nashville, so him and I meet up a lot and take pictures of the same fish. And another friend of mine, Isaac Zabo. I can give you a couple of other photographers to check out for underwater native fish stuff. I don't know if you can add that to the live stream after the fact, or the description or whatever.
Yeah, I can put it in. I think putting it in the comments is better, but we can definitely get it out there.
Yeah, and I share their stuff on via Enchanting Ectotherms. So if you follow the Facebook page, I'll share some of their stuff too. But they are kind of my inspiration. I do what I can, but those guys are really amazing with their photos, and we all get to see some really cool stuff that just nobody gets to see really because they're not in the water.
Now, you don't need any kind of permit to be in the waters just checking them out. You can't collect, but as far as just snorkeling around,
as long as you're not,
and you feel safe.
as long as you're not trespassing to get in the water, yeah, you're pretty much good to go with a mask and snorkel. Up here in the mountains, a wetsuit is helpful.
Yeah.
But summertime, the water gets pretty warm. It's usually pretty comfortable. The hardest part is finding clean, clear water. Which the mountains are good for because it's a lot of public land, so it's forested, so the waters don't get muddy. But once you get to areas with a lot of farm fields and urban development and things, it's kind of hard to find nice clear water. But yeah,
Ginger says following on both now.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see this earlier.
Yeah, that's from. So I'm a California boy, and I totally hate wintertime. Winter's not that bad in Tennessee, but every winter I still try to make a trek to Florida. And Florida is incredible. The springs down there. I don't know if you've heard of the springs down there, but Florida is basically sitting on top of bedrock of limestone. Yeah. And it's got a whole lot of aquifers and natural spring discharges and stuff. And you can go swim in a river where you can see 100 feet in any direction. The water is so clear. And there's great freshwater fish in there. And the one you're looking at right now is a Suwanee bass that was guarding a nest. He was in the Itchitucknee River. And it just very cool to see, the cypress trees and snakes and snapping turtles. And we usually don't see alligators, but I would like to see one, preferably before it sees me. But I would encourage anyone that's going to Florida and has an interest in freshwater fish to check out all the springs down there. They're amazing places.
I'm going in 2 weeks. I'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can talk later about if you're in the area, I can give you some places to go to see cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to talk about that. Wow.
Very cool. Oh,
yeah, that's nice. Some more of the rainbow shiners. Yeah. Those are just beautiful fish. And imagine those are native to East Tennessee.
Yeah.
They're here. That's incredible.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. I never get tired of looking at rainbow shiners.
Yeah. Now, how widespread are they?
So the northern part of their range is basically they are barely in Tennessee.
Okay.
They only occur, I think it's Polk County, just in the far southeast corner of Tennessee. And then they don't make it quite to Mobile, Alabama, but they basically, if you look at a map, they're kind of on a slash between southeast Tennessee and down towards Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
So kind of like those guys were outside of Birmingham. That's kind of right smack in the middle of their range.
The Zen Ginger says that looks like an aquarium. It's so clear and pretty. And it sounds like that's one of the biggest hurdles to being able to do this is to find areas where it's that clear.
Yeah. And just, again, watching the weather, usually late summers, it's not as good for fish coloration because they're not spawning. But if you want low, clear water, it's really approachable that way, and you can get good pictures of things. I'm also definitely not a professional when it comes to Adobe, but I try to clean the photos up a little bit. A lot of times there's, little bits of silt and things that are, streaking past the fish, and I try to make them look nice. But yeah, clear water is the most important ingredient.
Well, looks good. And let's see if I can figure out while we're on here how to share the Facebook page. We'll do that too, so everyone can check that out. Because I know I went through some of those pretty quick. There we go. All right, so it is 9:30. That's going to be the end of the stream. thank you, first of all, Derek, for joining us and for sharing about. We didn't really get into your hobby. We really talked a lot about your job. I meant for us to also talk about your hobby because I know there's tanks in the room.
Oh yeah, well, I'm in the middle of moving, so I it's not a good time for me to try and give a tour of my aquariums right now. Everything is a mess in here. But yeah, we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the reason I'm working the job I am is because I was a fish nerd. My dad's a retired dentist, so the stereotype is he had an aquarium in the office, just like a Nemo. So my dad kept fish, and I think I was 12 when I got my first 20-gallon, and I threw a bunch of crayfish in it and fed them lunch meat and stuff, and did not get into the fish right away. And then I moved to the East Coast and started learning about all the diversity back here, and so I, worked in pet stores, and I was kind of just a fish hobbyist before I became a biologist. So my roots are all in keeping tropical, and it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
So next time.
Yeah, next time we will. John's saying part 2.
I think we could have like 5 or 6 plus parts just talking about.
We could just talk about some of these species.
Well, it's like I was telling you guys, we don't have it ready yet. We haven't shot it, but I do want to. We've been talking about trying to get a video tour of the hatchery so that we can post it on the Conservation Fisheries website and stuff, and that could certainly be something that we share and try to get around, because I think and just locally, I want to get people into the hatchery and give more tours and things. So, yeah,
we're going to do that for sure. The club's interested. I think that'll be a lot of fun setup, and we've got to do groups of like 6 or smaller, so it'll take a while to allow everybody to come. But just because it's so loud,
it's a little loud in there. We're trying to switch to quieter pumps for our own sanity as much as electrical efficiency and things, but it's pretty loud back there. So,
yeah. All right. So, and Tanner, as always, thanks for being my co-host.
Thanks for having me.
And taking care of the notes, making sure that we covered what we had. Appreciate
we covered
that.
Most of it. We can. We'll definitely have to have you back on, Derek, because it was a joy hearing about your experiences and your work at CFI. It's incredible work. Y'all do a fantastic job.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Yep. So thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope you have a great week. And till next time, stay scruffy.